Hey cats, it's your midsole man Eddbud here. I got 3 pairs of shoes in the collection that I think will get the best out of me come the Manchester Marathon in April. Those top tier models are the following: the Nike Alphafly 3, the ASICS METASPEED Sky Paris, and the new kid on the block, the ADIDAS ADIZERO ADIOS Pro 4. These 3 seem to stand above the others in terms of performance, at least for me. Which one am I going to choose? Help me figure that out. Let's get to it. Thanks for joining me on the channel. It is always appreciated. We're almost at 60,000 subscribers, which is absolutely bonkers. Thanks for your support. I really appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button if you've not done so already. Also give this video a thumbs up, like, and drop us a comment to help with the YouTube algorithm. Dankeschön. Stats on screen right now for the 3 models I'm going to be talking about in today's video: the ASICS METASPEED Sky Paris, Alphafly 3 and the ADIOS Pro 4. All 3 of these seem to have the perfect stack height for me and those sort of fatigue lessening properties that are really important for a marathon shoe. They just seem to allow me to reach marathon-like paces, but just with a little bit less effort, I suppose. The perceived effort's just a little lower. But what is it about these 3 shoes that really sort of pulls them apart from the others? And it's time and time again as well throughout my training, these 3 just seem to get the best out of me. Stats wise, the ASICS shoe comes in as the lightest, with the ADIOS Pro 4 in silver and then the Alphafly 3 in bronze. But there's not a whole lot in it really when you look at the weight. I think all 3 of these really are great options when it comes to the marathon. It's a feather-like category really, and I think over such a distance and a time when you're on your feet, sometimes having a little bit more foam there and perhaps a little extra weight isn't all that important. All 3 shoes have a very prominent forefoot landing area. The ADIDAS and ASICS are a little narrower in the heel. The Alphafly with a little bit more width back there, which does seem to make it great for a marathon option, certainly towards the end of the race. You can certainly see between these 2, the Alphafly 3 and the ASICS METASPEED Sky, quite a bit more heel width here, and that could be important come the end. The Alphafly 3 just a little bit extra width in the forefoot over the METASPEED Sky Paris. But when it comes to forefoot width, there's not an awful lot in it between the ADIDAS shoe and the Alphafly 3. I would classify all of these shoes as being very soft in terms of the midsole foam. The ADIDAS one is by far the most marshmallow-like of the 3. The Alphafly 3 is a strange mixture really between that very soft Zoom X foam and the slightly firmer, more resilient air units that you've got here at the front of the shoe. Almost football-like bounce from the Air Zoom pods. The ASICS is a blend of sort of light and I guess aerated foam. It's a bit more of a rebound type feel. The ASICS and the Nike models though share something a little bit different in the foam of the shoe in terms of the carbon plate. Both of those plates are much flatter in terms of the actual shape from the heel through to the mid forefoot. Could that be the secret ingredient between those 2 that is proving so beneficial to me? I find that I can adjust my stride at will really throughout a training run or a race in those 2. They just seem to adjust very well to me, adjusting that stride length, allow me to bounce off with a more sort of energetic feel. The ADIDAS shoe can do that, but I find the rods kind of work a little bit better. They're kind of a little bit more tuned, I guess, to a certain pace. The stability of the rods isn't quite the same back there in the heel. This and the METASPEED Sky Paris just seem to fit really well no matter what sort of pace I'm running. I have found that the Alphafly 3 does seem to retain the properties of the foam and underfoot feel far longer though than the ASICS METASPEED Sky Paris. I don't think I'd run the marathon in the shoe that I've got right now, and at least in the pair I have right now. Those do seem to have dulled a little bit, so if I was going to choose those, I'd probably go out and buy a new pair. These are box fresh and ready to go. Maybe it's something to do with the surface area and the sort of larger amount of width that we have in the foam here in the Alphafly 3, and of course those air units are just a bit more resilient. They just seem to keep on going and retain the properties. That said, of course this one is quite weight relieved. You've got a big carving here in the sort of midfoot area, and back in the heel, you know, you've got that almost trampoline-like feel, I guess similar to the Nova Blast 5. I've ran hundreds of miles in my other 2 pairs of the Alphafly 3, and 100 miles too in the ASICS METASPEED Sky Paris. I'm at about 100k in the ADIOS Pro 4, I have to say I really enjoy this shoe for just about anything at the moment. I do predict though at this point that the ADIOS Pro 4 is going to outlast that METASPEED Sky Paris in terms of durability. The foam still feels fantastic in this shoe, super soft, yet it's super resilient, keeps on giving back, and I've worn it in some absolutely atrocious conditions. It's gone all over Spain with me as well. No sign of damage to the foam sidewalls or the exposed stuff on the outsole of the shoe, and the grip is equal, perhaps even better than that on the METASPEED Sky Paris so far. There's almost no wear on the rubber whatsoever. I don't know what this stuff's made of, but it is really good. Perhaps not quite the multi-terrain traction that we've got on the Alphafly 3. That shoe does work very well for me in all conditions, but it's certainly no slouch. So I'm finding that the ADIOS Pro 4 is kind of coming in between those two other options. The weight's pretty much in the middle between both of them. Similar forefoot width and in the heel as well. There is a more fitting and conforming upper here though over the ASICS METASPEED Sky Paris. Finding the rubber just as sticky and grippy as that shoe, but they've managed to use it very sparingly so as not to increase the weight. And then they brought the shoe in at 220 quid as well and made it readily available. A very impressive model. It's a masterstroke really. I'd say across all my testing so far at like marathon pace or above, all three shoes seem to produce some great results. The fatigue lessening properties of this one though really are something to behold. They managed to produce a shoe that's super light, yet you can just keep on running. Now my only perhaps reservation about this one is over a longer run I have now found that I reckon a half size up may be what I need for the marathon. So I could go in for another pair of these, box fresh, maybe get like a long run into them or something, and reserve those back for the Manchester Marathon. I think for a half marathon though, they'd be absolutely fine going true to size. So it's only really on the marathon where you're going to have that issue where your foot starts to swell and expand a little bit. And I think getting your sock game on is really important with this shoe. The nature of the insole and the upper materials here and the lock, you really need to get the sock thickness just right to actually really get the best out of the shoe. So it does give me a bit of a headache now as to what I go for in the Manchester Marathon. I think it is sponsored by ADIDAS, isn't it? So, you know, maybe I could rock up in a pair of these. I mean, you could say the Alphafly 3, when it comes to the crunch and the latter part of the race, might just be a little bit more forgiving. Interestingly enough, is that down to the fact that you've got this cutout here now? Both the other two shoes are a little bit more solid. They're filled in that section of the heel. Of course, it does look like you've got more stack here in the heel, but of course you haven't really. From that perspective, I started to think about comfort. You know, the METASPEED Sky Paris is very generous in terms of the forefoot, taller in the toe box, and I can't say the same for the ADIOS Pro 4. You can feel yourself hitting the front of that shoe and the actual top of the upper there as you're running along. Wider and slightly higher toe box here in the Alphafly 3. I've used this extensively for later long runs up to sort of 16 miles or so. I think I hit about 14 miles in the METASPEED Sky Paris and a similar distance as well on the ADIOS Pro 4. Though the marathon is of course a test of consistency of pace over the distance, and at this moment I do think the safest bet is to stick with the Alphafly 3. I know it very, very well, and of course the box fresh pair here. So I think the only real way to know is some sustained effort at marathon pace on some long runs. Still really tinkering with that marathon pace at the moment. Across a few different platforms there, this is what the devices and apps say. So Garmin reckoning on 3 hours 17. So that's about 7 minutes 32 per mile. The Coros watch I've got reckons on 3:11, so that's 7 minutes 19 seconds per mile. Sport Tracks reckons on about 3:23, which is 7:47 per mile. That's based on my half marathon race last year, and the marathon handbook around about the same with 3:22. I reckon a time closer to about 3:20 is probably more accurate. I'll probably go into it with like 3 different plans and see how I'm feeling, you know, sort of best case, middle, and then, you know, finish. But I think I'll get a slightly better feel for that as I get some of those long runs under my belt as we get closer and closer to the marathon. What do you think I should opt for at the Manchester Marathon? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. very quick musical interlude for you. I've been listening to the album Mad Villainy by Mad Villain. Obviously you'll probably know the people that made that album, MF Doom and the legendary producer Mad Lib. There's so many absolute bangers on this album. It's one of those classic hip-hop albums. Some people say the best ever, perhaps. It certainly rings a bell with me, though. There's lots of use of fantastic samples, very rare at times, stuff you probably never ever hear normally. Mad Lib and MF Doom managed to find these bits and sort of weld them together in this beautiful collage. Some of the beats are just so fantastically warm and sort of grungy, I suppose, and the samples just off the wall, but creating these wonderful melodies, kind of almost melancholy at times. Love the track All Caps, the beats are slamming, and there's some fantastic intricate use of the samples and pitch shifting to make up these brand new tones and melody lines that were never really supposed to go together, but somehow they just fit. What a fantastic album. Go and check it out in your next long run. Mad Villainy from Mad Villain. Thank you for watching my video today, guys. It's always appreciated. Hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up like. Drop me a comment as well to help with the YouTube algorithm, or maybe even a super thanks as well to help support the channel on a more ad hoc basis. My name's Eddbud and I'll be seeing you